Streets packed like rats trapped in a maze. Medication keeping kids in the daze, controlling their rage. Struggle for pay got cats trapped in a cage. Lifeless bodies lay from irresponsible gunplay. In response to one spray, prostitutes walk concrete runways. Ghetto's top model giving brains to who shot you. Undercovers watch you with drugs, they spot you. Let you floss for a minute, then jump out screaming, we got you. Constantly being lied to, cursed like Eve's value. Sexual predators stalking classrooms and chat rooms. Communities are jungles where evil confronts you. Stuck in this cold world with nowhere to run to. I got you, bro.
Thank you for tuning in to the Get Established Show. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Today we are talking about hip hop's influence on the Black community. Hey, Big, hey, can you introduce our co-host and our guest?
Certainly. Today we got Chilla. What's up, brother? Good morning to you.
Grand Rising.
Hezekiah, I appreciate you for bringing it in and sitting in for Derek today.
No problem, man.
We got Mr. Shine in the building today. How you doing there, Shine?
You know what it is.
And today's special guest is my main man, Charles. We call him Big Roe. Sneeze in the building. Welcome for being with us today. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me, fam.
Yeah, today's topic is hip hop influence on the Black community. Hip hop was just an outbreak in our community when we was growing up that influenced a lot of us, and we enjoyed hip hop. It was great artists like Run DMC, LL Cool J, Grandmaster Flash. We had Dougie Fresh, the Get Fresh crew. We had so many great MCs, and it was like so hard because I remember times we would like want to listen to Rakim, and we'll say Rakim was the greatest, L was the greatest, Big Daddy Kane was the greatest. It just hip hop was just a great movie, the break dancing and all that. Them years was the best years to me. I mean, even if we could go back to them years, we can enjoy that hip hop was just like a great movement. And I remember times when they said, you know, hip hop wouldn't even last, but you could just see how long hip hop has been around, man. Hip hop is just phenomenal. So let's start with Raymond with these questions and get it popping.
All right. Like I said, you know, it's gonna be open forum, so we all can you know, chime in whenever we want. But the better, you know, bring everything forth, you know, so y'all can understand the discussion. I'm gonna kick a few lines. All right. It all comes together. DJ, Beef Boy, Graffiti, EMC Squared. Knowledge makes five to make one aware. Beatboxing in the street to create a dope beat. Fashion with style to make the cipher complete. These are the elements, pillars of true hip hop. Mic check 1, 2. GES Crew and we won't stop. This is a philosophical test, not a battle to see who's best. Just no ledge at the edge so you won't slip like the rest. Babies gotta eat, so we lions break them off with wisdom and understanding so they know we paid the cause. That's one time for my man D Jones.
That's what's up, Raymond. That was dope.
Hey, great.
All right, so we can go into these questions. All right. First off, Chris went into it, but we can go into it again. What is hip hop? It's a collective question. Everybody can chime in whenever they want.
I think hip hop is a collection or a multitude of things. Because when you talk about hip hop, you can't just talk about the music. You got to talk about the break dance, and you got to talk about the graffiti. You got to all the elements you got to put in there. But I think with this discussion, the music has the biggest influence. So hip hop is just the music is a reflection of life, your life, whoever the MC's life is, the life around them, how you grew up, what you saw growing up, your community, your household, your circumstances, everything. Everything affects what goes on in your mind and in your spirit when you sit down and put that pen to the paper, or you sit at that ASR 10 or that MPC or that machine or SP 1200, whatever element it is. And even if you're not directly participating in it. You're not rapping or doing the beat, whatever you feel you can contribute as far as a suggestion or a vibe or whatever. Hip hop is an embodiment of all of that.
Well spoken. Yeah, music is known as the soundtrack of life. And that's why it's so powerful, is because music can evoke memories, emotion, and that's the beauty and the danger. Because based on what it is you hear, when we grew up, I mean, for me, when I hear like music like the Isley Brothers, that 70s R&B, Cool in the Game, stuff like that, I think of my summers. When I hear some of the early albums of Run DMC and LL Cool J, when hip hop was starting to really swell, I think of those times when we young, walking down the streets with our boom box. It's things like that in the summertime. But we had the opportunity in our youth to watch the development of hip hop to grow and break into all these different subcategories. Whereas now it just feels like one category. That's what it feels like. I mean, I know you got you got some good rappers out, but and not to take anything from anybody, it's just a different style of music, and it's a lot out right now that I actually like. But the difference that I find is that with the rappers nowadays, it's a lot of singing about doing drugs. Like, why would you want to influence a group of people to do drugs and diminish themselves? But that's what we're dealing with now. And it's impacting our community more so than any other negatively.
But as we talk about, I mean, what makes up hip hop, right? I mean, Bro talked about life. Everybody's talking about life. It's that's what it is, right? Because as Big was talking about the memories of childhood, I remember, growing up my summers carrying the boombox, the cassette tapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Sony Discman, right? Watching MTV videos, right? To hear those, to see those videos on. And you see that transition in the 80s to the 90s, where okay, now you had 4 or 5 radio stations to 100 radio stations. To where, and then it transforms to the 90s, where it was a little rougher in the communication. But the lyrics were there. We're explaining about police brutality. Then you see late 90s, early 2000s, where it started changing to more of a melody, more of a sense of, okay, well, hey, let me get the right hook, and then it's and then now, where not to take anything away, but it's when I look at hip hop back in my youth, knowing every lyric, listening to, okay, what we did on the streets, and what we saw in our neighborhoods, and now listening to lyrics now, it's just like, okay, well, man, that doesn't even make sense, at least to me. Some of it doesn't make sense. Some it's like, come on, man. Why we were trying to express things that we went through. Now people are expressing things that they want to go through and that everybody should go through. And then it was I looked at it as a means of education, how to be, aware of things. That was our communication. That was our Twitter. That was our TikTok. Music was that. Music was hip hop was that time to say, hey, look, this is what's happening out there. We're getting out there to you through music, and and I think it's changed now to where not particularly the artist's fault, but society. I mean, it's because music also ties into our society. As you see that, as you look in the 80s and the 90s, what happened? I mean, in the 70s and 60s, I mean, you had the civil rights. I mean, you had everything kind of going that way, and then you had hip hop was an expression of what was going on, and then I mean, we had all this just I mean, just communication, man. I mean, just had some good times back then. But it's like I remember we had a conversation prior to this, and we were talking about how when you listen to hip hop music, some of it now, you know, do you come away more intelligent? I guess you say more aware of stuff, or do you come away with with your mindset in a completely different place?
Yeah.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. There are some songs back in the days that if you listen to, I mean, an hour long, that you weren't gonna come back any smarter. I mean, you're gonna come back as
You're
so
right about that. Yeah.
I mean, but there was definitely a diversity of that. I mean, you had a slew of songs that I mean you could interchange and mix it with. But nowadays, I think it's going all into the same. It's just the same pattern, saying, okay, hey, look, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, jump in, Chris.
I mean, I jumped in earlier. Hip hop to me, I mean, like I said, I love hip hop. And the thing is, as I got older and we get wiser, and I look at some of the lyrics I used to write when I was younger, and then I'm like, hey, if this was on an airway, would this been an impact good for my community, or would this been an impact bad for my community? Because when we young, we're in a young state of mind. And like Rose said, the reflection of what we did in the streets in our life, we put it on paper. Sometimes when I hurt, I put my emotions down. When I'm mad, I put my emotions down. And a lot of our music was very influential to to the people. It's like my favorite artists. I can't say all my favorite artists was, positive role models. I mean, I listen to a lot of MCs, and some of the music I listen to is dark. And even if I'm in a bad mood, I put a bad song on so I can get in that bad vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If I want to do something good, I put it in a good form. So it's like music can calm the beast, or music can make the beast. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So it's like,
Indeed.
I know dudes who used to stick up, listen to the hip hop, and the Rob, they would listen to hardcore songs and go out here and emulate them things. So it's like music, it could be hip hop is good and it could be bad, but it all depends on the person. Because it's some great lyricists, and they could paint. Like Scarface is one of my favorite MCs, and he's to me like a Steven Spielberg. He can say something about murder, and you be like, man, that's the most phenomenal, because you see what he's saying, and the way he rapping, the way he talk and flow. I'm like, yo, man, he's a beast. But you love it. But I know that's art, and see, that's the thing. It was art to me. Some kids grow up with not knowing this is art, because like I said, and when I last Jane, I said one time entertainment, but now entertainment is coming reality, because these kids are listening to these music and these hip hop artists, and some of these artists won't even living like that. They were just painting a picture, like Rose said, we see in the community. But these kids are really believing these artists because they putting this mirage and this image out there, and they going out here trying to be like these artists, and these artists have never been locked up. Some of these artists may not even sold drugs because their brother and their family, because they were too busy doing music. You see what I'm saying? To be out here doing all that foolishness because they'll be behind bars. But these kids don't know the difference. And we got to look at it as just art. But the thing is, like I said, in one of my janks, I was talking about amplified. Everything's been pushed up to the highest form for us. The way we disrespect women, the way, and as I get older, and if you got a daughter, you be like, yeah, be this, be that. Then you don't want no dude calling your daughter a B, or your mom or sister. So it's like we was part of an impact of something at a young age that we didn't know the effect. We didn't even know it was gonna last. Because I remember like it ain't gonna last. My dad, it ain't gonna last. All old people, it ain't gonna last. It ain't gonna last. It ain't gonna last. And then you're like, hey man, but we gonna rock with it till the wheels fall off, and it just boom. Next thing you know, hip hop took over everything. It went past everything. Hip hop, the Music Source Awards, Source Magazine, it kept getting bigger and bigger. And then these white people jumped in and started pushing it. You see what I'm saying? And the narrative went from positive rap like KS1, positive rap like PE, positive rap to a bunch of negative rap. And I loved NWA. Easy, Ice Cube, Death Certificate, all that. I loved all that, but I knew it was art. And then we felt it because even when they say F the police, we felt it because we were having, police would come up and harass us for no reason in certain communities. I mean, some guys, fortunately, might not have been harassed by the police. I'd have been harassed by the police so much, and I'm doing right. And it just made me feel privileged to put a song in After Police.
Yeah, no
I'm
doubt.
feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I ride past and blast when they around me, and they looking at me with their sunshade. I was like, that was an anthem because you wanted somebody like James Brown to come out and say, I'm black and I'm proud. You wanted somebody to scream out for you because you couldn't do it on record. So when you heard these songs, you felt them songs. And it wasn't no bad intention, but it made you feel good to hear somebody, finally, somebody saying it. You know what I'm saying?
It's a strong message. The only thing, like the impact. I mean, look at, I don't even know the kids' names, but I know like last year and earlier this year, man, it was quite a few young rappers, male and female, that died from drug overdoses. It's like, it's out of control. I mean, and right now, and I'm gonna be blunt when I say this because I just don't know. You can go to a party and you can't tell who the nice girl is from who the hoe is because everybody twerking. Everybody.
Everybody.
And I mean, this day and time now, you know, I mean, growing up, I mean, this, you know, your boys will be like, no, that's the one over there. That's the one. I mean,
Right.
I mean, it's, but I mean, it's nowadays, I mean, everything's okay. You know, it's like, I remember talking to somebody saying, if I went to high school now, you know, what people do in high school now versus what people did in high school when I went to high school. I mean, it's just, that was common. That's commonplace now. That's like, oh yeah, that's no issue. Oh snap. I mean, but I mean, and to tie it all back, now look at us. I mean, we have matured, right? I mean, because when we were younger, some of our thought processes right now about music has changed, right? So it's, I mean, so when we were in our 20s and our teens and stuff like that, it's like we may not realize the impact of it now, but we had a different education growing up. I mean, we were talking about how we were listening to the 70 music, the 70 R&Bs and stuff like that. But how were we listening to it? Our parents were playing it in the house, you know.
Exactly.
It was playing on the radio. I mean, those were the only avenues where we got music, right? I remember my dad playing every night at 1:00 in the morning. I mean, 70 music all night. And it was just like, I woke up to that, you know? And then it's, so then we look at the generation now and it's like, I mean, there's not too many, I don't think there's that many families, one together or one that played music in a sense that, I mean, spoke to them, you know. I mean, now you're playing music today that, that's playing out there on the radio, that's playing on YouTube, that's playing, our technology is different now.
Just to piggyback off what Head said, like, yo, when we listen to those 70s records and those 70s songs with our parents, the parents kind of chaperoned the music. They talked about the feeling that it gave. They described the lyrics to the music and what invoked it and what it invoked. When we were coming up, we didn't have a chaperone for hip hop. I mean, you know, I remember when I got the NWA CD straight out of Compton, I went in the room and I closed the door and I listened to it because I didn't want my grandma to know that I was listening to it.
Right.
And it was, you know, we didn't have a chaperone for the music. And it's partly our fault in how the music shaped society. It's all coming full circle. We didn't chaperone the music for the next generation. Society kind of spiraled out of control, and now it's dictating. Where back in the day when we were growing up, you knew who the gangsters was in the neighborhood, right? Those gangsters got old and either passed away, went to jail, or got hooked on the drugs. We were so busy caught up and still learning and evolving in the music and reporting it that we didn't take time to take care of what it was or to try to shape the outcome. And that's why it is what it is now, with a lot of it. I'm not gonna say it's all of it because you still got some music that's trying to do some good. But I think a lot of people underestimate the influence of hip hop and what it actually, I can remember going to the Run DMC show at the Scope, and Run said everybody who got Adidas on, take it off and put it in the air. My
Oh,
Adidas was off in the air, standing barefoot in the Scope floor. Don't even know what's on the floor, even care. Wearing Adidas suits because they screaming my Adidas. You know what I mean? Like, hustler music made you want to get on the block and hustle. You know what I mean? PE made you want to fight. They made you want to go and do something positive. You know what I mean? Like, they influenced the Greek Fest stuff down on the strip. You know what I mean? So,
mhm.
but just to reel it in, we need to start chaperoning the music for those coming up trying to do the music, and just for those listening, man. So that's how we will get better music than what we get now, better lyrics anyway.
All right. Let me throw a question out there. I'm gonna reel it back a little bit so that if we're gonna talk about you know where it is currently today, let's go back and talk about how it was back when it started. Like, because in the beginning it was centered around the Black community. What message did it send out to our community when it was first and came about? What message did it send to the people?
When it first came out, hip hop, hip it to the hip, hip. You got, it got to other things, except for, then you had Grandmaster Flash, with the message. Um, but when it first came out, the show and Lottie Dottie, Rappers Delight, and those type of things, it was just about getting the party started. The Double Dutch Bus, Planet Rock. Because if you think about it, when hip hop actually started, a lot of the big records, it really wasn't like formatted lyrics. It wasn't really bars and hooks. It was just basically the music with one chorus chanting. I mean, Planet Rock, what is like 16 or 20 bars straight where he zz 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 zz, but you just
Right.
vibing to the music. So really, it was just about the party. It was about the break dancing. That's what it was
Mhm.
about at first. You know.
Back in the day, in the originator, the DJ was the big name and the big thing. He was
There you go
he
now.
was the one that was rocking it. The DJ. It
Mhm.
wasn't about the rapper. The rapper was someone that was there to support the DJ and keep the party going. And then it became that the rappers became so good, so intelligent that people started hearing the not just the pushing of the party, but they actually started listening to what the MC was actually saying.
Mhm.
And the MCs became really good because they were at a party basically freestyling. It got to a point where they started preparing stuff, but they were coming so good. The lyrics, the combination of lyrics became so great that the MC superseded the DJ. And that's where things change, because a lot of times it was a gathering point for people when these um it was just a gathering, a feel good time. Um in the
Right.
beginning.
Go ahead, Hez. You
Yeah,
gonna say something?
yeah. I was just saying that. I mean, being a kid, during the '80s, I just remember being in the car and hearing the music, seeing on the street when we had the block party or something like that, where the music is playing. Right. I mean, it's where it was something that you want to be a part of, something that was fun, something that was, that just made you feel good, and you wanted to replay that, right? So you want to replay that because you saw people like you doing, I mean, enjoying themselves, because it was just that was what music was. I mean, rappers delight. I mean, it just, you know, on that boombox. I mean, how riding the bike. I mean, I literally done to ride a bike with the boombox around the neighborhood. I mean, playing a cassette tape, man. I mean, it just, you know, that you recorded off of the radio. I mean, that's just so. I mean, it's. I mean, that's. I mean, that was that's what it was. I mean, and it's. I mean, those are fond memories, man. Because what it did, you rode around the neighborhood because you were in the neighborhood about the kids out. You would go to your boy's house, and then, I mean, you chill, you get everybody to the basketball court or to the park, or you go to the park, and that's what we'll be playing in the park. So it tied it into the good music. I mean, in the 80s, if we're talking about at the beginning of it, and then you brought your cardboard box out, and then I mean, you started. I mean, you seeing other people breakdancing. I mean, it was just like, okay, on that cardboard box, and you're trying to say, oh, cool, let's do it. So, I mean, it was a party.
I think one thing too that was initiated that probably maybe hadn't thought about was even from the standpoint of the b-boys, when they were breakdancing, most things were freestyle. A lot of things. I mean, it got to the point where the lyrics were freestyle. Now you got freestyle dance because when you get into those battles, the dance battles, and not necessarily the rap battles, but that's just another element of hip hop.
Now you
get into those dance battles, you're trying to top what the next dancer or crew.
No doubt. Right.
So now it creates another level of innovation.
Sure.
That is what, in the beginning of hip hop, that's what made it elevate, is because the essence of the battle, not the vicious battle, but just I'm gonna one up you and make you step your game up.
Competition, man.
Yeah.
The DJ element, because that's how DJ started doing all these different tricks on those wheels, what we call the wheels of steel. You know, those are the two turntables. In the beginning, they were just playing the music back to back. They had two turntables just to keep the break going. There wasn't any acrobatics or anything going on. It was just to keep that break part that was no lyrics, just to keep the music grooving. That's why they had two turntables.
Exactly.
Then what happened? Somebody had to step it up. The innovation. That's where the scratches came in. That's where the transformer came in. With that innovation in the DJ, everything was elevated. Everything. The DJ was elevated because of the competition and the battle. The dances was elevated from the essence of the battle, and the MCs.
The DJ sold the party.
Right. The rock the party. That
go.
made it elevate. And you know, I got to do this comparison to today's world. The one-ups now is how many more drugs can I do and how many more people can I shoot? We going in the wrong direction.
All right.
That's not the message.
All right. But yeah, that's you now you're starting to see where I want to take this. I want to kind of lay out the culture and how it is in all of its elements, so that the young people can understand where it came from the beginning.
Yes.
You know, we know where it went, but in order for them to know what it is that they are selling out here, they got to know what the essence, the elements of it, the pureness of it, so they can be like, oh well, damn, this is what it is.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So that's what I mean by the elements.
Yeah. Yes, and then also, if you think about it from a graffiti standpoint, you know, you may have in the beginning a guy that's tagging a wall and he's using two colors. You know what I'm saying? Right. It takes time because you can't just be out just tagging and think the cops, they're going to ride by and just let you keep what they consider defacing, and now it's considered art. Now, graffiti, people pay people big money to come in and put graffiti up in their
Right.
businesses, in their venues, and in, you know, around the world. That's what's happening. But back in the day, let's say you tag them with 2 colors, you on a wall. Well, then you know what? Somebody like, okay, I'm a one up this. I'm gonna tag the train because the train moving. The train gonna show me this is my riding billboard. Where you just got this wall in this city. Now I'm gonna tag this train. This train could be going all over the country, and it's
Yeah,
got my logo, basically my tag on this.
like
So
Rainbow from Beat Street.
right,
Yeah, there you go.
right.
Y'all,
And there's certain things too that, you know, maybe, I mean, it's like that, you know, certain people in a lot of things in culture, you study the history. I don't really believe that this group of kids right now knows anything other than what they just have heard or seen. You even hear, which I think is just one of the best rappers of in today's time, J. Cole. He was talking about when he was on tour. I heard an interview, and he was like, "Man, when I was out, I took that time to go back and watch some of the things I feel like I should have seen that I didn't see because it wasn't that's in my era." And he was talking about Crush Groove and Beat Street, you know, Electric Boogaloo, you know, those things,
Man.
you know, that he went back and watched, which will make him only better. And that's the thing. If the kids understand, if you go back to the source, it will take you to a higher place because you'll get it and people won't understand why you know. And honestly, let me say this. Chris earlier has said something about 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz is a rapper named Titty Boy.
in the
Okay,
beginning.
right. That's who he was for a long period. His rap name was Titty Boy. Now 2 Chainz, he said 2 Chainz a second chance. When he came as 2 Chainz, now his message, for some reason, it took off. It took off bigger than it did when he was Titty Boy. Commercially, it took off bigger. But guess what 2 Chainz got? 2 Chainz is closer to our generation than the youth. So the things that we talking about, he knew. And I believe those things are what the elements are to allow him to what? One up, reinvent himself and take himself to another level. Because now he's a premier rapper. He is.
Knowing the history kind of highlights the responsibility you have. When you know the history behind something, you know, like comparing it to a family heirloom or something like that. When you know the history behind something, the work that was put into developing it, what it meant to the people that started it or who had it before you take more care and more responsibility of it. So you're going to be more insightful or be more, you know, responsible with how you present it when it's in your hands.
But
Right.
you know,
You
I
want
mean,
hold,
as
hold,
y'all,
let me
as
let me
y'all
let
said,
me let me let me let Chris jump in because he's been a little quiet there, if y'all don't mind.
Gotta get Chris.
Ain't much
Gotta get
to
Chris.
say, man. Everybody has said everything to be said about that culture, man. The graffiti, everything, the movies, Wild Style, you know, Beat Street, Breaking. I mean, it was just a movement, man. It was like no different than the hippie era, man. Hip hop was just a movement of our generation, man. That we enjoyed. It was a good movement. It started off beautiful, great. I mean, the artwork, the lyrics, the competition, everything was friendly. You was just looking to see who was the best lyricist. Right then, we took pride in our lyrics. We did this. It was just a different era, man. Everything been painted basically. Like I said, from the graffiti to the break dancing to the way we used to wear our chains, gazelles, everything, bombers. It was just a hot time, man. It was just a hot time. And it's like we waited to catch your MTV raps. We wanted to see our artists. I remember when MTV first broke. What was that giant Run DMC had? Rock Box or something. Dun, dun, dun. I'm the king of
Yeah.
rock. We couldn't wait to see you out there waiting all day. Got to watch all these white Van Halen and Bon Jovi and all those just to catch one rap video. You stayed there to watch it, man,
Man.
because you wanted to see it. It was
Or
like it was
Friday night videos.
yeah, and all that, and then all of a
yeah, that's
sudden,
right, that's right.
and then all of a sudden, rap took over MTV. So it was like it was a movement, man. You would like watch Soul Train back then just to see one of the old artists to get up there. Oh, they got a rap out there. You was just happy to see them, man. It was everybody, all us went to it. Just even with Big Roe was saying, I remember when throw that D, man. You was scared to play it around your grandma. You outside, throw that D.
Man, you are
To my crew, you was bashing it. A lot of dollar. You scared. You turned lot of dollar. Realized about it, and it was storytelling the rap back then. It was hot, man. It was just a good age that I don't think we'll never feel again in music. That time, because it won't just. It was so many artists coming out with different styles and saying different things, and won't nobody saying the same thing. It was so many different styles of rap. It was just ridiculous.
You know what was major when you said something about a rapper being on MTV? One thing that was major when LL performed on American Bandstand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was just like, whoa. You know, that was like changing of the guards.
Right.
When you saw that. And literally right now, hip hop has taken over the world. The thing that they said would never gonna last. Oh, it's never gonna last. It's a phase. It's all it is. All it is done has continued to expand. But with expansion comes responsibility. And I think what happens is we have allowed ourselves to not take the reins of hip hop and allow these people with power and money to steer the ship on hip hop. And that's one of the dangerous things, because there's artists that we don't hear from because the money behind the music doesn't want that to be heard.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, granted, in today's world, we do have a place where everybody can have a platform. Okay. But what you're going to get, what do people listen to more? The negative. It's just human nature. For some reason, the negative drives it just does something. It moves people to pay attention to the noise and the negative instead of the positive. You can compare the sales of your worst rock group, your worst hip hop group, compared to the sales of one of your best gospel artists, and what you got? Sales blown out, right? Why is that? And how can we take the responsibility to put good music out that can actually build the minds of our children? Because what's happened, like I said, when we grew up, we didn't get the first gangster movement wasn't. We weren't 5 years old listening to gangster rap because it wasn't no gangster rap.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It came up during probably our teenage years, what we would call gangster rap. Now you had some nasty stuff. You had the 2 Live Crews, and you had other things along the way, maybe some singles, but we were still developing. We might have been in our mid-teens, 14, 15, 16 years old, where then we can still see it. This is entertainment. This is not what is real life. But when you grow up at a kindergarten or pre-kindergarten age, and you hearing this stuff, you don't know the difference from what's real and what's not real, because this is what has been slow. It's like a tapping of a slow tapping of a nail into your brain, and you don't know you walking around with an 18-inch nail through your head by the time you're 10.
Wow.
Well, you said a lot. I mean, y'all said a lot. I mean, we talk about. I mean, we have to talk about the technology, and that's been tied into hip hop. That's made hip hop where it's at right now. Because I mean, when you think back to it in the 80s and the early 90s, again, we only had 5 channels. We only had you didn't have the internet. You didn't have all these other means of influence. So you had a few that was able to get out there, right? And then when we talk back to the beginning of hip hop, and when we're talking about the dance battles and stuff like that, I mean, we had those movies, but when Michael Jackson came out and did the the moonwalk. I mean the tie. I mean it's
Motown 25.
that's when, say what?
Motown 25.
But
Yeah.
when that happened, when that came out, I mean, then everybody started looking at the dance more, and it started putting. I mean, it was like, oh wow, what is that? So I mean, it's and then it became more commercial. And but if you remember back in the days, whenever you used to hear a rapper or a hip hop artist talk about, they talked about the history, right? They talked about their influence. They talked about where they got it from, right? So it's and then I mean, I know we try not to continue to jump back to now, but I don't hear. I mean, when I listen to interviews now, I don't hear the the influences of the 80s and the 90s of the music today. You know, of them saying, "Oh yeah, you know, I went back and I listened to this," or I mean, I remember the cassette tape. I don't see it. So, and then something else that you said was about the kids in this day and time when they don't have they haven't been taught the idea that between fantasy and real life, and all they hear is what they've been presented bombarded with all the time is this message from this unintelligent, well, sometimes unintelligent message. I mean, it's hard for them to discern that this is not real life to them when all they see it on TV, especially high def. So I mean, it's some
Hey,
powerful stuff.
all right. Let me ask y'all this because y'all lean to it. Y'all lean to it when y'all give y'all answers. All right. So let me just say this: has hip hop, the total culture, promoted violence in the community
Indeed.
itself? No, listen to what I'm saying. Itself, the music has it promoted violence in the community?
Indeed. Indeed.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, you gotta you know, you think about, you know, because I like to break it down into eras, right?
Okay.
So if you start in the '90s, that '90s era,
Mm-hmm.
the '92, uh, you know,
Yeah.
when you get into those, you get into the East Coast, like hardcore gangster rap, because you know you had Ice T come with the Colors joint, and you heard Gangsta Gangsta and all of that from NWA, but that was on a West Coast perspective, gang culture, things of that nature. But when you get into those Mobb Deep albums,
Mm.
those Component Noriega albums, um, you know, when you get into those where they really talking about, I mean, Biggie, Jay Z, all of that from those different perspectives. Yes, tearing down our community was promoted. The drug use was promoted. You know, the killing was promoted. You know, you had people to try and say, well, it's influenced. We don't have poppy fields in the hood. We don't have gun manufacturers in the hood. No, we don't. But certain people went and got those things and brought them into our neighborhoods and benefited from it and then reported and profited on it. So of course, yeah, it was a lot of influence. I mean, we can speak to it big, like, you know, when we had issues with someone and it was time to fight, how we would load up in the car and play an NWA record of those type of songs to get us ready.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yo, we going out here, we gonna be ready. I gotta get my mind right. You know, just things of that nature, like when it was that time. So of course music had an influence on the, you know, on the on community. Indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta agree. I feel like the machine behind it made it worse, but
Yes.
I think what happened the
Yes.
the creativity of our people, and then once again the one upping of one another. You know, we had to extra sensationalize the situations, and then the thing about it is the talent of the lyricists. When you sit down and listen to Biggie Smalls tell a story. And even let's go even before him. Let's go back to who I'm gonna say is probably one of the greatest storytellers on wax, Slick Rick.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you listen to a Slick Rick. So Slick Rick was basically was training Nas, Biggie, you know, some of these other great lyricists, your Talib Kweli, some of the just great, Mos Def, right? So what happens is you add another layer, okay? But with that next layer comes a responsibility. Now you've got some guys that took it as a responsibility and used it to push the positive of the culture. Some guys took it, add another layer, and took it, and may or may not known how damaging their level up was to the culture. They may, as you sometimes we get things at face value. Well, I'm just reporting. I'm reporting the news, what's going on in the hood, right? I'm just reporting it. Well, you got a guy over here, they at the same level. But I'm gonna say lyrically, you got somebody that's being responsible with the message, and you got someone that don't even know or may know, but I'm gonna say they don't know how irresponsible, because now us 20 years later, I'm gonna say 25 years later, of course we can go back and look at this now and say, damn, that wasn't beneficial. But in the moment, we was rocking with
sir.
it. A part of that feeling, because I remember even when I was in college, the generation 20 years before us, college kids were perceived and looked at different. Well, my college era was full of Wu-Tang, Biggie, the Hit Squad, these things. And I remember, this is just part of youth rebellion, okay? So I'm walking around one day and, I got my pants. They ain't sagging like off my butt.
Sagging.
They're a little sagging. Okay, they sagging. And I got my own money. I'm doing all right. I'm in college. I'm working 3 jobs though. You know what I'm saying? So I'm walking in the police station. I don't know if I had got a ticket on campus or something or whatever. I wasn't in a good mood. Why? I don't even know why I was in there. But one of the officers said, "Hey, man, you pull your pants up." I said, "Man, look." I said, "I'm grown." I'm like, "Don't bother me. I'm in here trying to handle some business. Go do what you supposed to do. Go chase down some people doing something wrong. I ain't doing nothing wrong." Now, was I doing something wrong? As a 21-year-old loose cannon at the moment, because I'm not going to say I won't always loose cannon. At that moment, I just didn't want to be bothered, okay? But was I doing something wrong? And I'm going to say yes. I was perpetuating the image.
Stereotype, yes, sir.
You didn't at that time, you didn't want nobody to tell you what you needed to do to better yourself.
Right.
You decided that you wanted to be this rebel, because you wanted to defy the social norm at the time.
That was big, though. That was big. That was classic big right there.
Yeah, but I would look, man. I was working hard, and I was up there doing what I'm thinking is the right thing to do and everything, and he come. And granted, he was an older black gentleman. I should have displayed more respect to him. I should have. But being able to reflect on that, and then because that's a moment that's one of those things you look back and say, man, I could have handled that differently.
Yeah,
but because this is the thing. Now hold on, let me say this, Frank.
I know, but you want to get too far in this point in your life. We want to move to another question. Another question, another person answer.
I understand. Let me say this. The biggest part of what I was unaware of is, number one, how that impacted him, and number two, how many people around us were affected by that interaction. That is where
Okay, got you. Next.
Hey, Raymond, before you, because I think that's one of the biggest parts. The realization of, like, in that moment for Big, I mean, I had a very similar one for that same is realizing the influence that you have from what you do on somebody else that may not know what you know or what you've been through, right? And so it's and how that teaches the next generation, because the people who saw you, I mean, that old man, the older gentleman who was a police officer, you weren't going to change his thought process, right? But if there was somebody there, like a 12-year-old or a 13 or a 10-year-old, and said, "Oh, look, I mean, you're going to change theirs." You know, I was in a ball in Virginia, and I had my pants, I would say, sagging. They were sagging. I mean, they were off. I mean, it was just it. I mean, it was a thing. And I mean, we're walking in the mall, and I'm just like, okay, cool. And this is a time where people, I mean, if they stepped on your shoes, you fighting, right? I mean, this is a time, I mean, which I say some of the crazy stuff, but anyway. But you know, I looked over and I saw this little girl looking at me, you know, and it hit me at that moment. It's like, dang, what is she getting from how I'm presenting right now? But nah, I mean, that's just what I want to say. I mean, it's that's powerful when we realize that we have an impact on those that's around us.
Right.
All right, Chris.
I mean, at the beginning of the show, before I saw most of my flow was everything basically was sad, man. It's kind of hard because like I try not to hip hop influence. I mean, you just see how culture it is because when basically what I was saying and everybody kind of touched on is when I started with Earth, Wind and Fire, I was saying the music we listen to, this is what was soul music. We grew up in a soul generation. We grew up with emotions and feelings. We grew up hearing songs about love, even though we put our frustrations on paper behind these beats. Even when you heard Biggie, Juicy, or you heard, One More Chance, these R&B records, we feel in the vibe, and they made some of these remixes even hotter. Our voice was heard. Today, like I was saying earlier, and Biggie even said these kids, they don't grow up to, these old songs we listen to that had so. They grow up into an era that we would used to talk about selling drugs, and now they grow up doing drugs, and they glamify scissor, they glamify all the stuff, and these little kids wear skinny jeans. These little kids, emulate what they hear. And the thing was, I feel like us played a big part of what's going on now. I blame the people controlling the music, and I could blame some of us who's, pushed the music, because we didn't know the effect that I'm looking at now was getting ready to happen. Because as I look at it and I think back, and I'm in the 90s and I'm looking back at the little kids and the people pumping them songs up and the little kids dancing. And just like now, I'm watching 4-year-old girls twerking when they playing Nicki Minaj's Stallion. I'm like, God dang, like, man, we screwed up. And how can you fix this? Because if you tell them, man, don't listen to the music. I even watch a little 4-year-old know the lyrics better to every one of these songs. Listen to MCA Youngboy and all. They can just go off into the music, man. And you just looking at it like, God dang, man. And who your favorite MC, and you listening to him. Then you going back playing the music like, yo, these 4-year-olds listening to this. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like in my teens listening to stuff like this. So we looking at how hip hop is really affecting us, man. We looking at these boys don't even have no social, like I said, connection to each other, man, and the music playing part of it. We're looking at the gang banging, and some of these dudes who are real now, Bloods and Crips, who's really rapping in these gangs, they promoting this gang life, man. And it's like, we weren't promoting gang life. We were just saying art. It was art. And that's what I said. It went from art to now entertainment is reality. It's not even art no more. Dudes got to prove that I'm hard, I'm real street. And these these new artists, they trying to join gangs. Some of them never even been in gangs until they get into the rap scene, and then now all of a sudden they want to become gang. Because my mind was, if I was in a gang, Like Ice-T and MCA, they were trying to get out the game. They got successful. They put that behind them. These new cats trying to be so real that they start off successful and want to jump in it and promote it. So it's like, yeah, hip hop has been very influential to a lot of negativity, man. It taught us how to get, like I said, I remember girls didn't even smoke weed or blunts and cigarettes like they do now, man. I can't find a young girl 25 or 30 now and under, man, that ain't even smoking. Every time I go in the store, they buying some type smoke, some stick, some type thing. I'm like, God dang, when did this change? They get these girls out here go harder than us. Some of them packing guns on them now. You see what I'm saying?
They
And
playing
all
no
this is
games,
part of the
bro.
hip hop, man.
Yes, they playing no games, bro.
Yeah, it's getting hip hop. It's like they killed out the Common, they killed out the Talib, they killed out all the conscious rap and bringing in nothing but a lot of strong negative rap. Anything that's dumbing you down, and anything that's talking negative, to anything that don't even make sense. They some force, I can't say who, but some forces investing money into it. Just like one of my MCs, young MCs, I did, like, what was the one that said push what's his name? With a skateboard.
Oh, Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah.
Lord, no. I was watching a jank on him. He was like, man, they won't let my next, because they want to hear me say something negative and this and that. And I'm trying, because he was trying to push positive type music, but they put his stuff on the shelf because he wasn't saying what they wanted him to say, something negative. And he came out talking about it. But that's where hip hop is.
Rule number 4080, record company people are shady.
Yes, sir. Tip said it.
See, I mean, that's the other perspective that we haven't really got into is the background. I mean, the people in the background. I mean, the powers that be, that society that's been pushing this. I mean, because if you think back in the '90s when the vice president of the United States was talking about gangster rap, was talking about how negative it was. And then you start looking at, I mean, okay, well, putting stuff on the shelf because it promotes positivity instead of, no, we want negativity. I mean, because what does negativity do? It evokes those emotions and creates that divide. And I mean, how else can you describe what's happening now? We got a divide in this country too, because you're taking away the history. I mean, the history, if you take away the history, you can rewrite the future of stuff. And that's what's been happening. So, I mean, and we see it specifically with the hip hop. I mean, we see it out there with our culture. I mean, it's like people, I mean, the struggles that we went through in the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there's people today that think there was no struggle. Oh, that was back in the days. That's done with.
Or don't respect the struggle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If doing, because this year the election was huge, right? And when you talked about voting and things of that nature, you had a lot of your quote woke folk really talking about how unimportant voting was.
Absolutely.
You really had means disrespecting the movement of of the 60s. Martin Luther King and them, they were really disrespecting that movement. Like, why were you actually begging to vote? Why were we begging to be a part of a process that was oppressing us? And that's so that's why right now, man, it's important to kind of reel that in and really kind of dig into what we actually need to do to turn things around. But it's the music, bro. The music, if the music change, if the highlights change to positive music, like Hezekiah was saying, man, that would change our outlook and how we are as a people in the country, man. I'm just, the music can change it all. And Chuck B been telling us the whole time, bro. Chuck B been telling us the whole time. I mean, if you listen to KRS-One, My Philosophy, he prophesied on the industry way back then. In the 80s, he said what the industry was going to be. And it came to pass. all of that, you know, and even on a negative impact, if you listen to the 4321, the LL joint with DMX and Meth and Red and all of that, if you listen to all those verses and those different type of perspectives, go back and really listen to DMX verse and listen to how eloquently he described robbing somebody. I mean, if you really listen to the verse, when I catch you when the sun is down, run it, clown, come up off that, or I'ma gun you down. I mean, just how eloquent it was. You get caught up. Really listen to the verse. I broke this down for a young boy that worked for me. He was like, yo, I went back and listened to it, and he was like, you not lying. Like, he really is describing robbing somebody. Indeed. You know what I mean? So hip hop's influence on society, on the culture, on us as a community, on the world. You know what I mean? You know, hip hop has an influence on the whole world. You know, so I mean, y'all gonna have to come back with a part 2 to this, man, because it's something that could go on, you know, really, like, but something really needs to be done or be organized. And I think the community of hip hop needs to be at the forefront. It's not necessarily with established people, just people who are part of the culture via listening and, you know, think about all the tapes you bought. And then the tapes were 10, and then you had to buy CDs. CDs went up to 20. Now you're paying a prescription to download music. You know what I mean? So, you know, man, it's just, the influence is just major, man. It's just major. And I really don't think these young cats really understand the influence that they have.
You know what
they
it
could have.
You know what it is, though? The biggest thing is the marketing. Because I know me and Chris talked about this. There is a YouTube video or a message that is on YouTube of a gentleman that breaks down what's allowed in music. Okay, he's like, okay, can we put someone on the radio that's talking about killing people? Can we put someone on the radio that's talking about raping people? Can we put someone on the radio that's talking about this? And the only places where it couldn't, the only places that it could be is in what they call urban radio, which urban is a code word for black. So only those messages can be disseminated through rap music on urban radio. They will not be played on top 40. They will not be played on country. They will not be played on rock. Those songs will not be accepted in those genres of music talking about killing, murdering, or doing anything negative to people. But anything related to the black culture, push it through.
You see, that's when I was saying that message about amplified, because everything is amplified at us. They make it real strong. Because what you just saying, I have never seen any two rock and roll dudes, man, I'm gonna kill you after the J. They out there fighting with the guitars and shooting at each other or fighting. You don't see country artists do that, man. That's why I said this has been pro-planned for us. They put certain stuff in us. They want us to watch, like I said, when we talked about real NBA wives or Atlanta housewives. They want our little girls to grow up thinking this is normal. They want us to walk around with our pants down and disrespecting old people and talking stupid. Mm-hmm. They programming us and see that's like hip hop. Yeah, hip hop right now has us in this type, era that we looking at these kids and I'm like, dang, I'm turning the radio on, but who's trying to rock these kids and let them know, yo, this ain't right? Because all we got is dudes who weren't worrying about the money, man. Everybody chasing this bag all the time. Gotta get a bag, gotta get a bag, gotta get a bag. And I'm like, what, man? That's cool and dandy, man, but you ain't gonna have no bag if everybody dead in a few. They're exterminating us this way through our music, because now music becoming a extermination level. You know what I'm saying? Yes, because I'm seeing rappers getting smoked left and right every day a week. There's a rapper trying to come up who's blowing up, pow, they're getting gunned down. I'm like, I ain't see no country. I don't see no country artists getting gunned down. I don't see no heavy metal artists getting gunned down, but I'm seeing hip hop artists getting gunned down.
Yeah,
that's not normal, man. That's not normal. And for us to make this part of the culture, We starting to think it's normal to see artists supposed to make it and get killed. No, that's not normal. Until we stand up as people and speak about this, man, we can't keep letting this go on, because we're allowing somebody to manipulate this to think this is normal. And this is a problem. Because right now in hip hop, and I'm watching certain artists, they have control of their music, like Drake and all them. They ain't letting the labels control them. We got to let the narrative of controlling our own music, getting our own masters back. Because these kids now, they sell out. They'll say whatever they got to say and don't even care. I mean, they am not looking at, you know, a young woman who's coming into music would get naked and get in front of everybody and rap and don't even care about this is affecting her daughter, this is affecting her little sister, this is affecting the future. They don't even care, man, about that bag.
Let's think back to when we were talking about the positive rap, in the 80s and stuff like that. And then when it was getting mainstream, where you had the Ipsy Hammers or the Fresh Prince, where it was just all this like positive craziness, right? And which it got big. If you remember, it got really big at that time. And then all of a sudden, and then it in 92, 93, it went to the NWA's the gangster rap. And it started pushing to that real big. I mean, if you think back to it, it's like, well, dang. One, it was promoting positivity at first, and then it switched to the negative, and then they pushed the negative rap more. I mean, just sitting here, y'all thinking about it, it's just like, dang, thinking back to that, it's like, think of the positive raps that you heard after the 92, 93s, after that time. It was never like it was in 89 and 90 and stuff like that. It wasn't like that. So it was like, wow, thinking back to it, they wanted to find a way to push the negativity into our communities. They wanted to find a way to say, okay, hey, look, to the other people, because when you push that music out, when you see rap, who do you see on it? You look at it as Black folks, right? Mm-hmm. Even though white people are the ones that are playing it all the time, they say, oh, it doesn't involve us because look, it's Black folks. Those are what Black folks are doing. It gives the narrative of what they were talking about back in the days. And so, and then it promotes that, and it teaches the young people who don't know the history. Because again, like I said earlier, you take away the history, you get to shape the future a different way. So now you listen to that music and you're like, okay, oh, this is how my people are, so this is how I should be. And it's like, and then when you don't have a family to explain or to chaperone that music, to explain the meaning behind it, to explain the reason why we vote or what have you, then all they're getting is from that emulation about, okay, hey, oh, what? This is what a good Black person or a Black person with money, this is money and power. This is what I gotta be. I gotta be hard. I gotta be in the gang. I gotta do this. I gotta do this drugs. This is what it is. This is what it is to be powerful. The Jay-Z, Beyonce stuff. This is what I gotta do. Right. So, and it's like, nah, man. So, man, just sitting here thinking about it, you start seeing all the different connections to what's being promoted and how, yeah, we have to change it. And it goes back to the education. Man.
All right.
All
right. Well, I'll just ask this one quick question to everybody. Just to kind of lighten up a little bit. Because we all, of course, we grew up at the beginning of this genre of music, and we all appreciate it for what it was and what it is and what it can be. But just a lighthearted question, like out of y'all's catalogs, I know we all have a favorite artist, So, I want y'all to explain to the people your favorite artists and why they're your favorite artists.
Oh man, it's easy for me, Raymond. We've had this discussion many a times, man.
Yeah.
My favorite artist, man, KRS One, man. And the reason why is because every aspect of the culture he's tried to uplift at some point. And you know, lyrically he's superior um, to all, to me. And then his live performance, and like, you know, being in the showcase when he did The Bridge Is Over, I mean, it wasn't any drinks being served, wasn't any food being served because bartenders and waitresses was just jumping along with it. He tried to foster like the stop the violence movement. He had that, but he brought about self destruction. Those songs, Heal, Human Education Against Lies. He was one of the first rappers to introduce scripture in the song Why Is That on the Blueprint album. Um, just every aspect of culture that was being overlooked and that was being affected negatively, he tried to put light on it and paint a picture and try to uplift the culture at all costs. So for me, man, it's simple, KRS-One, period.
Well, for me, y'all know I'm a Tribe Called Quest fan. No more, Now, out of the group, of course, the group is very dear to my heart. Okay, but I am a huge fan of the 5 Foot Assassin, Fight Dog.
Fight Dog, R.I.P.
And I'm gonna just tell you, and Fife, and I'm gonna tell y'all something now.
His birthday was the other day too.
My favorite song, and rest in peace, rest in power, Fife Dog, is Butter.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, Fife, you won't hear his name. Nobody mention him on no top 10 list. None of this, none of that. Y'all better recognize. Go back, do your history on the Tribe Called Quest. Listen to Fife Dog. Tip is tip.
I want to say something.
Go
I
ahead.
was in the ATL. I want to say this was like 93 or 94. And he was down there. And he was in the warehouse. And they had open mic. And I was like, Fife's nice. I like Fife. He be killing in it. When he got on that mic, man, and he rocked that mic, man, he rocked that joint for like 20 minutes nonstop. And I was like, yo. I kept telling him, man, Fife is a beast. There ain't but 2 people rocked the warehouse in the ATL that I had to respect. It were Fife Dog and CeeLo. I like, yo, them 2 blew my mind away because I didn't know CeeLo was that good, and I really didn't know Fife was that good. No lie.
I would say one of the most underrated rappers is Fife Dog, the 5 Foot Assassin. But hey, he's my ace. Rest in power, brother.
Yeah.
Well,
me, fellas, I'll go ahead, Chris.
No, because Raymond gonna know who I'm gonna say, but it's like me being an artist. I can go. My greatest MCs has always been in different time shifts. You know what I'm saying? Because I with L,
You
gotta pick one. You gotta pick one.
But I mean, if it is, it ain't gonna be who y'all's. I'm gonna have to say Pop, man. The only reason I would say Pop because I just like Pop. Not saying he was the best influence. I like Pop for one particular reason. Because Pop, to me, would write his feelings on paper like I would.
Yes.
You would see Pop. Pop won't scared to show his emotion, dear mama. Pop won't scared to say keep your head up. Pop won't scared to say something positive, but then he can get to his nasty side. And it's like most artists stay on one channel. They never show their full emotion. Because I mean, you can't be hard 100 times. You can't say you never loved a woman. Pop could show his emotion side, get away, or you know what I'm saying, doom. That's why I say I like Pop, because I seen the full circle of Pop. A lot of artists, they play like they pimps all the way and they ain't pimps or this and that. That's the only reason. I ain't gonna say he was the greatest inspirational person, but he can be inspirational. So it's just like I like Pop because I look at the way he put in the music, the way he wrote songs, the way they were saying that dude to do 10 songs in one day, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, God dang, you know what I'm saying? But you could feel it because his emotions and his feelings was in his music. If he was mad, you felt when he was mad. If he was talking something deep about love, you felt his love. So I'm like, to me, one of the greatest MCs I like is Tupac.
But fellas, I'm telling you, you know, listen to all of you guys. I mean, it's all of them have been influential. You know, I mean, it's I don't particularly have a favorite. I have one that, I mean, when I was younger, I used to listen to all the time because I just like stories. You know, I just like how he put stories. And Slick Rick, I think somebody brought him up earlier. I mean, how Slick Rick put the stories together. I mean, and it painted a picture because I mean, it was just, I mean, it's just, it's one of those things. I mean, as a kid, I mean, I could say those lyrics and I could see that story. I could see, I mean, it was just, that's been the most, I mean, that's probably been one of my favorite parts of it. I mean, but it's, you know, we all hip hop though. I mean, we grew up in that area. So, I mean, it's, I mean, it's just so many songs there. But yeah, if I had to pick my favorite, I mean, it would have been Slick.
Rick the Ruler.
We know Rakim. Come in and Rakim. We know
Yes,
you
sir.
is Rakim all the way. Rakim. MC God, Rakim. Come on. And see, it's unfair because Rakim, one of my greatest. That's like I said, I got number Q, Scarface, but you know, it was hard because mine's in different eras of my life. That's what I was saying. But if we had to pick one, no problem. This man stuck with Rakim like a football team from beginning to end.
I know it's high disagreement in on certain
I ain't gonna knock
panelists.
Rakim. I can't take a thing. Rakim shake the music of knowledge and the way he came out. I can't take it from Rakim, man.
I mean, some people would say, I would say that they're my favorite artists. You know,
but it's Rakim 100. Ain't gonna change that narrative. He gonna stay
well, let me just go. I other than the obvious facts, the main thing that made me like him was the controlled fury of how he got on the mic. You know what I mean? You know how everybody like, you just up there like, yo, you know, steady getting the flow. You can picture like a photo, music maintain melodies and all that. And it's just like the control, just him just on that mic, he just pinned laser point straight right at you. Sir. And that's what made me say that's nice. I had to not blur them out, but that's what made me say he's nice. And I like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Purified freestyle.
Smooth flow. You know, even when it was aggression, it was just focus.
Aggression? You must
what Roe was about to say.
Rakim was saying stuff on nobody was saying. He put your mind in a whole
that. But I'm talking because you know all of that. I'm just saying that's what made me say, look at that. Yeah. Look at that cat.
A purified freestyle. Woo.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, and like Rose said, with lyrics of fear, that man just going off.
Just going off.
Focus.
Yes, sir.
Ray, your whole, I mean, aura changed when you say that, man. When you got into it, I mean, it's like your eyes. I mean, all of a sudden, I mean, it's like for the whole time we talking, I mean, you're like, and then you're like, Yeah, it was just, I mean, you can see the passion. I mean, everybody, man. I just had to give it up to y'all, man, because I mean, just the passion, just of what y'all shared. I mean, and then just to take it from just doing this podcast and getting out this to where the impact, right? The impact of artists to your lives and the reasons why. Right, the positive reasons why, or negative reasons why, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's powerful to see that, and being able to show that to generations, right? Because that's what it is. We talked about it at the beginning, where going back to the chaperoning, when we listened to the 70s music, and we got that from our parents, our family, from that. We got the history from it. Why it is, or why the music made them feel the way that they do. Right. And so, and y'all just presented that right here. Like I mean, the emotion. I mean, that, hey, with pop, when you feel the emotion, everything. I mean, it's just like how the tribe. I mean, it's just, being able to share that, so people could see, and everybody's emotions change when they start talking about, that memory. The reason when they started playing the music in their mind, I could see you guys playing the rap that in your mind. It's like when Chris was talking about going to the warehouse in Atlanta, and it's like, man, yeah, I came in there, I was like, okay, and then if I got on stage, and it was like, oh snap. And he hit it. It's that's the realness, right? So that's where sharing our history, you know, sharing our lifestyle, sharing what has impacted us.
But I'm
It's
gonna
so
say something.
powerful
I'm
of
gonna
what
pick it
we're
back
doing
up
now.
what he said, because I was like on Pop thing. I never felt nothing like that when Pop died, man. The impact that when Pop died, because I was so into his music, and one reason I was like really into Pop music is because it was like when I wrote, because when he came out, I was writing the scenario of me listening to him was like listening to myself in a different way. Cause it was like, man, I'll write something like that. It was like he was so similar. His style was different, but his way of writing and so similar. Cause I always wanted people to feel what I said in my lyrics. Cause I could tell you songs like, I'm gonna flow this song. I'm living in a world of total darkness, where everybody is heartless. So let me start this and begins to rock this with society. I can't cope with humanity. I'm living in a world, damn, of insanity, where nobody cares, nobody gives a fuck. And all my life, I've been down on my luck. I was born a young thug that only wanted to be loved and hugged. Sometimes I wanted a fuck I was thinking of, a fucking dream, because it seemed that I was in for the worst and curse. Ever since the fucking days of birth, instead of friends, I had fucking enemies. And some of them with my family. And I can remember all that shit. This is a kid. They call me stupid and saying I never ever meant it. Ain't that a shit? But see, that's what they really expected. But again, his life is what they was dick. So now I'm gonna kick it and let y'all check it. You can kiss my black ass. I made a record, but no hard feelings, because some of the credit goes to you by treating me and showing me nobody gives a fuck about you. And in that era, when I was writing stuff like that, I'm listening to Pop. I'm like, yo, this nigga in the same tone I'm in. That's what made me really levitate the Pop. Cause all my songs were going like that. And I'm like, well, man, feeling this again. And I was like, when I heard something, that gave me inspiration to even write more songs. You know what I'm saying? So it's like and when Pop died, man, it was just like when Marvin Gaye died. It effed me up. I ain't never felt that emotion like that for an artist. I was like, yo, I felt like a family member died. I could
Wow.
remember when Pop died. I felt like a family, like everybody, more than it was haters going that Pop. And I'm like, damn, that's messed up. This dude died. Because in the music industry, Pop was first and then Big. When both of them hit, that was an impact on both on the hip hop. When Pop died and Big died, both of them were two powerful impacts, man. A year apart.
Major.
It was just like
And
Malcolm X or Kennedy got killed. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. That's how it was. One was Malcolm, one was Martin Luther King. Both of them died in hip hop. It was boom. I'm like, yo, it's messed up.
hey man, I know Sean trying to wrap up. I just me personally, man, I just want to say, first of all, thank y'all, man, for inviting me and having me on talking about something that, I'm passionate about. You know, Chris, man, I still I'm playing in my mind, please leave me the hell alone. Uh, Big played that for me, man, and it was dope, man. It's good to hear you, spitting those lyrics, man. And it's good meeting you. But
Man,
I
pleasure,
just
man.
in the moment in this platform, man, I really want to send a special appreciation, man, to the people to Shine, and Big, man, because at one point, man, a lot of my influence in my music and what I was writing came from them. It's like I had to have their approval for it to be right. Now it's difficult to get both of their approval, but when it's fire, big can't deny it. But you gotta pull it out of shine. It's like pulling a tooth. Like pulling a tooth that ain't even loose with some needle nose pliers. And you'll come out the booth or you'll play the song and I'm nodding uncontrollably and I like, Shine, what you think about this joint? I was spitting. Shine would be like, yeah, it's all right. You saying no, man, just
you feeling your heart is all in it.
Bro, I'm trying to tell you, like, and I know but I think that was just a way for him to keep me hungry and keep me humble. And that, still sharp and still, man. So, y'all keep this going, man, and keep building on it, man. And, I'm always here, for whatever you need, not just to be on, but any type of support or any helping hand that I can lend. I'm there, man. I appreciate y'all, brothers, for real.
Yeah,
we ain't get a row flow, man. I know you might not want to cuss, and you know what? I deal with that cussing. I try.
All right, Chris. I got something for you.
You ain't got to cuss, man.
I got something for you. I got something for you. Streets packed like rats trapped in a maze. Medication keeping kids in the daze, controlling their rage. Struggle for pay got cats trapped in a cage. Lifeless bodies lay from irresponsible gunplay. In response to one spray, prostitutes walk concrete runways. Ghetto's top model giving brains to who shot you. Undercovers watch you with drugs, they spot you. Let you floss for a minute, then jump out screaming, we got you. Constantly being lied to, cursed like Eve's value. Sexual predators stalking classrooms and chat rooms. Communities are jungles where evil confronts you. Stuck in this cold world with nowhere to run to. I got you, bro.
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
That's all right.
See, that Raymond, man, you was a negative ball. Man, look, bro, it was good. Don't let Raymond, you rap. Let's hear your rap, man.
I already did my little bit.
Don't say no Rock Him lyrics either, man.
That won't no Rock Him lyrics there, buddy.
No, I don't want to hear no Rock. I want to hear Raymond.
Hey, I already spit, bro. I gave you my little bit, man. I gave you my little bit of lines.
Love y'all, brothers, man.
Because see, that's art that come from our heart, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we're right. We criticize ourselves before somebody else. And like Rose said, I used to have to write rap and get in front of my crew. And I always had other dudes who would influence me. Ah, man, because he'll come out with something harder. That made me go back and I'm like, God, I got to throw this away and write something else. And I used to write every day. Every day I write a song. But, we got good for going out here, flowing in front of crowds and dudes better than you. Like, God dang, because I always going to come with somebody with a better style. You like, yo. And that's when I started, Chilla, my name is Chilla. That's when I started doing that reggae stuff. I say, I know they really rocking the time of the time I see to find the people. And I started tongue twisting in 88. You know what I'm saying? Dude was like, yo. So I was killing dudes when I was doing that reggae stuff because all I heard was just ice. I didn't know what to write when I sat down and wrote it. Carefully selecting now, it's time for me to show it. Go look at the lyrics of what I do whenever I get. When I heard that, that was it. I was like, oh, shoot, I got something new to go with.
Ice was that dude.
Yeah, so I started flowing like that, and everybody was loving it. Yeah. But it was so many inspirational people in music that influenced me. I mean, you got to realize Big Daddy Kane, LL, Rakim, all of them influenced me. So it's like you try to write. Even when I wrote, I would listen to all of them and say, how can I mix all these dudes together to come up with this ultimate style that will blow everybody mind? Have a little bit of L, Rakim, Big Daddy, Chaos One, and all in one song. You know what I'm saying? And I would do all that stuff. Anything I heard, I would like mix everything up to flow.
It wasn't them for me. I mentioned it earlier, man. Before we start recording, my man Drake Goodrich, rest in power, Fats Cousteau. Yeah. He was a direct influence on me. Like, period. I wasn't trying to be like the cats that was out. My influence was the cats that was around me. Twan, me, Elmo, just cats that that was in our inner circle. Them young cats, Body Box Battalion, homie Troy Mitchell. The local cats that we were around. Those were the cats that kind of dictated me on whether I was nice or not. If I could put a tape in and I could get Drake to pull his head down and wave his hand, you couldn't tell me nothing. I wasn't changing nothing about it. Period. You know, his seal of approval was what it was. That was it. Yo, because Big hit me. Yo, you play that track? Yeah. Who was in the car? Drake was in the car. What he say about it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was, you know, that's what it was, man.
You get
For
that.
real.
Drake was,
Good.
man.
That thing.
And
I'm gonna
I hate saying Drake was. You know, it is.
Yeah, bro.
great
Yeah, bro.
MCs, and you know
Moving
what,
forward,
man?
man.
Honestly, this is on before we get off. Honestly, I kind of like one of the. I know if I ever had made it or made money, I always wanted to do a documentary about here because it was a lot of great MCs in these streets that should have been heard because then that never got heard. And I mean, from my generation on down, there was a lot of good MCs.
Just being a fly on the wall with this, man. I just appreciate y'all. Yeah, y'all inviting me again, man. It's been a pleasure. I mean, definitely meeting you. Ro, hearing y'all spit, man. I didn't even know y'all could spit. I mean, y'all. This is the first time. I mean, it's like, I mean, now I knew Chris could talk, but Lord have mercy. I mean, he get passionate about stuff, but I mean, it's like from his talking, but then to hear him spit, it's just like, oh snap, and then the lyrics, man, I just gotta give it to y'all. Where it's not, I mean, there's some knowledge behind that. So, just again, man, thanks again for letting me be a part of this. Thanks for sharing. I mean, being open to a side of Virginia, to some of your childhoods that, hey, it makes me feel like I was there. I mean, so now I just appreciate that, fellas.
No doubt, Hez, you part of the fam, brother. Yeah. Can't get away now.
We can talk after. Just let him close.
Right. Okay. So we all realize that, hip hop has went, in directions that we never thought it would go, even from the beginning when it was a new form of music and we just, were just vibing off of that old school feel of what mom and pops used to listen to. But, that there brought in our own take of what we felt like hip hop or that music should be and how we wanted it to feel and we wanted it to be in our lives and interpreting it, So with that, like we've all said, initially, that in the greater scheme of things, there needs to be a responsibility to it. But that said, we just move it forward. Go ahead and take us out. BIGG.
You know what it is. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Get established.
Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to the Get Established Show on all media platforms. Have a good day.
All right. It all comes together. DJ, B-Boy, Graffiti, EMC Squared. Knowledge makes five to make one aware. Beatboxing to the beat to create the beat. Yeah, y'all make me mess up.
Just start from there. So go 3,
all right,
2, 1.
All right. Okay, this discussion, I want to kick a few lines so y'all understand where I'm coming from. All right, it brings it all together. B-Boy, DJ, Graffiti, EMC Squared. Knowledge makes five to make one aware. Beatboxing in the street to create a dope beat. Knowledge. Damn.
You almost there, bro.
All right, I know.
You got me into it.
I was in the zone. I was in the zone when I first.
You didn't rehearse it good enough last night, man. Rehearse.
All right, it's coming. It's coming. Whatever.
All
right.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. All right. In this discussion, I just want to kick a few lines so y'all understand where we're going with it.